Right now. I'm Aristotle, full throttle. Here we go again. It is Friday. How did it get to be Friday again? How do the days work even anymore? What is even time? We are caught in a bubble. You and me, Lee, we are caught in a bubble. Welcome to the show. Aristotle, full throttle, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at noon, Pacific Standard Time. If you even know what time means anymore, that's what we're at. That's the place we're at. Hey, Iwagala, how are you? Nice to see you. Welcome, everybody. Today we're talking about action-adventure movies. But, firstly, I think it's important that we actually recognize how wonderful movies are. They're an escape. They're an escape to another land. It's hard to imagine a world without a place to go, another alternative universe where you can imagine things being much better than they are. Hey guys, imagine if we were living in a world of incredible civil unrest during a pandemic while we had the worst leadership in the history of this country. Imagine if that was happening right now. I know, guys, it's tough to deal with. We're dealing with a lot of stuff right now. Of course, I'm talking about the situation in Minneapolis, Minnesota, George Floyd. I don't think it's I'd like to get to talking about movies any second now and get to escaping the reality that we're living in, the hellish world we're living in. But it is insane. It is an insane world we're living in, guys. And we have each other, so that's a good thing. We could try to be good. I've realized... And I took lots of moments right before going on the air today. I think my new mantra, you're not supposed to share your mantra, but I'm going to share my mantra with you guys. And no one else, except for anybody who watches the replay on YouTube or Instagram. No one else will know this but me and you. Be good. It's from E.T. If E.T. taught us anything from his other planet coming down here, the alien monkey space chimp botanist E.T., be good. It's very simple. If you're given the choice, that's the better one. So guys, be good. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. It's not hard. Actually, it is hard. It's a simple thought, but just keep coming back to it. Be good. I think it's important that we recognize the man who was murdered the other day, George Floyd. I think it's important we say his name and that we know his name. They arrested the officer who knelt on his neck, but I think for murder, rightly so, they arrested him. However, I think they need to arrest all 4 officers involved, because they're all, at the very least, guilty of negligence, homicide, manslaughter, something. You don't just stand there and watch a man get murdered. That's not what E.T. taught us. That might seem glib, I'm sorry, but basic humanity was lost in that moment. And I feel that we can, I get real cynical. I get really sad sometimes. And I think, this could be it. This could be it. The world could just be kind of falling apart at the seams right now. I don't want to sound alarmist or anything, but that's what it feels like. That's what it looks like. By all accounts, that's what's happening. The future is not set. It's unclear. But what we can do is breathe. See how good that feels? Just taking a moment to breathe. I'm getting caught up in it, guys. It's very emotional. And I know you guys are probably feeling the same way. If you're human, let's all be human. Let's all be good. Let's all be ETs. E.T., I don't know if it's an action adventure, but there's lots of action in it. How's that for a segue? Hey, duty, we're just getting real serious right now. Do not follow me seriously. We're just talking about the state of the world right now, and it's not at its finest. But you know what we can do? We can make America great for once. Not again. Because Lord knows it has not achieved greatness yet. There's a goal in mind there. There's actually an ideal that is great. We have not gotten there yet. There's always room for improvement. And just like Bill Murray says, there's always room for Jell-O. I'm pretty sure Bill Murray said that. And just like Bill Cosby taught us, there's always room for Jell-O pudding pops. Oh man, Bill Cosby. Rest in peace. That guy. See, remember when Bill Cosby was... Yeah, I mean, he's pretty fucking evil. I'm gonna breathe. You know, you ever go to a movie? I went to see the Pirates of the Caribbean in 2003, and I went with my friend, and I saw it at a drive-in, and I was really stoked when I saw that movie. I was like, this movie's great. This movie is so great. There's so much classic Hollywood in it. It's a pirate swashbuckling fun movie. It's exciting. Johnny Depp's approach to the character of Jack Sparrow was so eccentric, yet so perfect at the same time. It was just so enjoyable to watch every moment of what he decided to do on the screen. And it's a joy. I think that movie's an absolute joy, and I did when it came out. And the sequel's not so much. But I remember leaving that movie going, wow, how fun was that movie? And then my friend was like, I didn't like it. And that's the beauty of movies, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I was witnessing a classic, which, time is told, is indeed a classic. I'd like to take some credit for that. At least me recognizing that it's a classic. And that person was like, I didn't like it. So you never know. You never know what people are going to like. So, you know, F them. Tatiana, what's up? What's up, Bongani? Hey, everybody. Hi, Mom. My mom is here. Say hi to my mom. E.T., yeah, I'd consider, this is what Tatiana says, flying in the bike through the sky with the alien being in your basket action adventure. Yes, that is some action, and it is definitely adventure. Iwa Gala wore a pirate's medallion as a necklace that you got from Disneyland. That's pretty impressive. That is cool, because you're cool. That is actually pretty cool. Who'd have thought, out of all of the rides at Disneyland, that one would turn into a classic movie called the same name? Its namesake ride, Pirates of the Caribbean. It is a classic movie based on a ride of animatronic pirates. Now I can't wait for the Teacup movie so I could throw up. Hey, Earth J. Welcome to the show, Aristotle Full Throttle. Guys, don't forget, I'm having a giveaway. I'm going to give away a PS5 when I get to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube because, you know, I've been doing this YouTube thing for a while. Doing the TikTok thing now, guys. TikTok is a thing. It's just all constantly in flux, and you got to adapt to the new things. And TikTok is actually quite fun, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So if you want to follow me on TikTok, that's fun. We'll get those subscriber numbers up. We'll get everybody involved. We'll get everybody involved in the world of Aristotle Full Throttle, which involves enjoyment, unabashed liking of things. There's no such thing as a guilty pleasure in this world, or in our world, Aristotle Full Throttle. We like things, and we like them because we do. If those are the kinds of things you like, then I guess you like that kind of thing. That's my motto. And once I get to 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to give away a PS5. So just go ahead to go to AristotleFullThrottle.com, subscribe, and then comment on my videos, and that will qualify you to win that PS4. There's so many people. There are people here that have been, you know, they've been stalwarts for the Aristotle Full Throttle show for years. And I see you guys every day, and I appreciate you. Thank you. And I'm glad that you're all safe, and I'm glad that you're being good, because that's what we like over here. There's things in this world that we need more of. One is empathy, compassion. That's two things, but hey, I'm going to combine them as one thing. You know what? I'm actually going to say that they're two sides of the same coin. I'm also going to give a shout out to my mom for teaching me when I was very young that two different words. I remember there was one instance where I was like, oh, well, that word means the same as that other word. And my mom was like, well, my mom's a teacher, ladies and gentlemen. She said, well, not necessarily, on account of the fact that it's a different word. So every single word that we use is important. We have to choose our words wisely and carefully because they all have distinct meanings. They are all distinct. That's why they're different, except for inflammable and flammable. They're the same word. Mom. See? Got you on that one. Inflammable, flammable, same thing. You look up flammable, it'll say, they have the exact same definition of inflammable. But that aside, what I'm trying to say is empathy, compassion, two sides of the same coin. We need those things in life. We also need critical thinking. We also need to think. Oh, well, thank you, Iwagala. You are very enjoyable as well. You all are very pleasant to be around, and I appreciate that. Virtually be around. This has been great. I mean, I've been doing this I don't know, how long have I been doing this, Tatiana? The noontime day streams. It seems like maybe a month and a half now. 5 days a week for a month and a half. Haven't missed a day. Even when I went to the beach the other day and got some sunburn on my chest. I got sunburnt. Even when I went to the beach the other day, I still managed to do about 15 minutes. But I just want to check in with you guys every day. I want to check in, make sure that we're keeping some form of structure, keeping some form of good vibes going to preserve the human race into the future. Maybe we could all form our own, or just retain the idea of goodness and spread it and carry it along and spread it around a little bit. Good afternoon, Will. Appreciate you coming and joining us every day. I was just talking about Pirates of the Caribbean and how I thought instantly, have you ever been in a movie that you were just like, you were witnessing a classic movie? You're like, this movie as it unfolds is just so mesmerizing and impressive that I'm losing my mind. This is just incredible cinema that I'm witnessing. And then you leave the theater, and then the person that you saw the movie with was like, yeah, it was all right. I don't know. I didn't like that guy with his nose goes like this. And you're just like, what? How did we just watch the same damn movie? Hey, Rich Bad 25. Always appropriate. Right. Thank you, Will. You know, I am the namesake of some dude from a couple thousand years ago who had a lot of good ideas, but also a lot of bad ideas, ladies and gentlemen. Do not get confused and think that Aristotle was the be-all, end-all. He was the smartest guy in the world 2,000 years ago. And in all honesty, I probably know more than that guy ever did. And you do too. You know calculus. Calculus wasn't even invented until 300 years ago. Aristotle wouldn't even freaking know that stuff. Yeah. So the point is, being the smartest person in the world thousands of years ago is pretty impressive, but only a couple thousand years ago. No, but Aristotle had he forwarded humanity's thinking process, which was good, but he also considered women and animals and children all about the same level. He didn't really have much respect for women and children and animals. Here, let me put this like this. I'm having a problem here. Hold on a second. Yeah, I think it's hilarious that Aristotle was like, cows and women. That was like the same thing to him. So I definitely have a deep divergence from his line of thinking. I think people are people. I always think it's funny, guys. Here's just random thoughts now. I'm just going off on a tangent, but I think it's hilarious whenever you see the evolutionary chart. I mentioned this before on the show. The evolutionary chart, the ascent of man, where they show the chimpanzee, which, by the way, is our cousin, preceding some other hominin, and then there's like a series of hominins, and then the last one being Homo sapien. And you're like, oh, so chimps and then Neanderthals. These are all cousins of ours. They're not. There's no linear. They're not one and then the next one and then the next one and the next one. And the one we usually see is actually an abbreviated chart. And there was one in like the 1800s that was like 20 in a row of different types of hominins or something. The thing that is ridiculous about that is it only shows a man, and humans are a species made up of two sexes generally. Humans, man is one half of a species. And people don't seem to know how to wrap their mind around that. Women are one half of a species. So when you see a chart and there's like there's a chimp, and then there's male hominins, and then a human man, and there's no women on the chart, and then it's totally wrong. You've been lied to. I just want to bring some reality to the situation. Thank you. What are your favorite action adventure movies? Obviously, Star Wars is action adventure, science, space, fantasy. But there are so many good ones. Indiana Jones, action adventure, nonstop. There was a time in the 80s where movies were just constant. Like you went from one action sequence to the next action sequence. And there was a time when movies like that, each action sequence was highly motivated and went really well, dovetailed perfectly into the next one. However, now I think there's just action for action's sake. But I think the Avengers movies are really bringing those back around again, about how to watch a movie that has highly motivated action, but also very spectacular action and fantastical action. Harry Potter. Are those action adventure? I don't get Harry Potter. Could someone please explain Harry Potter to me? Will says the theory of dialectic reasoning, which served him in moving beyond those antiquated views he had in the lifespan of the undisturbed tree. Yeah, Aristotle could have used some knowledge. Remember Socrates in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? Adventure is in the title. It's called Excellent Adventure, and you know what? It was an excellent adventure, except the first Bill and Ted's movie and the second Bill and Ted movie use a joke that uses the F word. And I'm not saying the F-U-C-K word, the other F word that is a pejorative against humans. They say this word in in the movie, in the first Bill and Ted's, and Bill and Ted's is one of my favorite movies ever, except they unfortunately use a word as a joke. They take a section of humanity and they call them the F word. But like they use a term that is very disparaging to a section of humanity. A giant, I don't know, just humans, groups of humans. And they say F word. And you're like, really, guys? This was the 80s, I guess. And then they not only do that in the first Bill and Ted's, but in the second Bill and Ted, they double down. And I know it's of its time, but it's not good. They need to, I don't know. It's not good. I need to fast forward that part because it it besmirches the whole movie. I hope in Bill and Ted 3 they don't do it again, because that would just be like doubling down on a really terrible idea, bad joke. Let's see. Ewagala. Your mom must be lovely, and she did a great job because you are lovely AF. Well, thank you. That's very sweet of you to say. My mom is very lovely. Yes, she is. Will. Okay, my talking about this ancient knowledge and aliens invites mentioning Stargate. Okay, good point, Will. Will's good. Will is a good ringer for keeping the conversation ignited and on fire. My buddies are calling me right now, but shout out to my friend Dave. It's his birthday today. Shout out to Dave. Lee, if you're watching, tell Dave I said happy birthday. I'm just in the middle of something, though I might join you guys later on a FaceTime call. Stargate. Dean Devlin. I'd like to talk about Dean Devlin for a second. I thought Dean Devlin used to be an actor in the 80s, right? And check this out. He was in a movie called Real Genius. Real Genius is one of my favorite movies in the history of movies. I'm sure it hasn't dated well. I'm putting this on this list of a guilty pleasure movie. It's not even a guilty pleasure. I told you guys earlier, there's no such thing as a guilty pleasure, but it is just a straight up joy of a movie. And I'm going to put this on my list right now because I think I need some Real Genius in my life right now. It's a fantastic, phenomenal movie. It's got Val Kilmer in it. It's also got John Grise. I don't know if you know who John Grise is, but he plays a character named Laszlo Holyfeld in that. Laszlo Holyfeld. I'm getting to that point in my life where I'm like, what's his name? Johnny Depp? I'm really getting to that point. I'm like, is his name Bob Costas? And then they're like, no, his name is George Clooney. That's George Clooney you're talking about. And I'm like, Bob Costas. No, his name's Bob Costas. I'm pretty sure. No, Bob Costas is like a sportscaster. No, he was in the movie Scream. You mean Stargate? Yeah. It's getting to that point, ladies and gentlemen. Need more coffee for that. Need more coffee to get those neurons connecting. But Dean Devlin is in a movie called Real Genius. He's got a bit part. And Real Genius is so fun. I literally have tried to pattern my life around that. Not that I'm a real genius, but I think a lot of the characters in that movie were real dopey. And I thought I related to the dopey characters and the quirky and the dopey characters in that movie, which are the ones that I truly thought. I just like that the idea of that movie where they had this feeling that they could create and make anything. They had like an endless world that was their oyster because they were like, you know what? We're in college now. We're free. We can, and we're pretty smart and we're pretty motivated. Why don't we take liquid nitrogen and turn the whole hallway into an ice skating rink? Why don't we turn, the rec room into a pool party, and have water slides and stuff, because they had know-how. And it's not so much the know-how, it's not so much the genius, it's the will. It's the will, it's the motivation to want to do things, to want to make things happen, to make the idea become a reality. That's what we like to do. And I think that somehow that gets lost along the way. Sometimes we just succumb to our social pressures, our spheres of social pressure. We're like, well, Bob Costas got a job working at the the office. Why don't I get that same job working at the office, even though I had dreams? You ever have dreams? Did you ever have dreams? Even though I had dreams that to do something else. So what I say is, guys, follow your dreams. If you want to build a water slide in your hallway, go right ahead. Who am I to stop you? No one is here to stop you. You be you, boo. You do you, boo. That is actually, I think, that's a quote from Aristotle. You can technically write that down and then put Aristotle underneath that, and you won't be wrong. You do you, boo. Who said that? I said it right now. You've got evidence. Thanks for, yeah. So you can create your world. You could do whatever you want. You could, within reason. Don't be a dick. That's mainly the one thing. And also, follow what this kid says.
That you had. Have you ever had a dreams that you had you could you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
Words of wisdom. Quote me on that. I'll tell you, what I loved about Real Genius. Rich Bad 25, love Real Genius, one of my favorite movies. Absolutely fantastic, phenomenal movie with an incredible climax and an awesome soundtrack. It's got Val Kilmer. It's got the actor William Atherton in it. William Atherton, you might recognize as the guy who played the EPA agent in Ghostbusters. He was the guy that tried to shut down the Ghostbusters, told them to turn down the power grid, and then they were like, no way, you're going to let all the ghosts loose. And he's like, this is an environmental hazard you guys are running here. We need to shut this down and see what happens. And they were like, all right, Dickless, go right ahead. And he did that. The funny thing about William Atherton is he always played kind of a dick in the 80s. He was also in Die Hard, which is an action movie that takes place in a building. Think about that. William Atherton plays the, hey, Angelo, welcome, good afternoon. William Atherton in Die Hard plays the reporter. He's just trying to get a story. If you think about it, if you follow William Atherton's career, he always plays the guy who's much maligned. He's the dick. He's the guy that you're like, I hate that guy. He's such a jerk. What a party pooper. But you know what? He's kind of always the guy, the voice of reason. He's actually the good guy in a lot of movies. I'd like you to wrap your mind around this. Even though he is the antagonist in these movies, he's the good guy. He's the antagonist in Ghostbusters, but he works for the EPA. He's coming in because he doesn't know what these guys are doing in the middle of Manhattan with a nuclear facility. He's like, look, you guys could be polluting the environment. You guys could be polluting the city, the water supply. I don't know what's going on here. I need to find out. He's actually doing a good job, and he's doing a service for society. Isn't that crazy? The Ghostbusters are being dicks. But, you know, lovable dicks. I think if you look at his other roles, in Real Genius, he plays the Professor Jerry. Great line of that movie where Val Kilmer tells Jerry off as he leaves, and he says, you know, Jerry, there are just as many decaffeinated brands out there that are just as good as the real thing. I love that line. He's talking about Jerry being high-strung. That's what that means. I thought that was hilarious. I do like that movie so much, but Jerry in that movie, you know what? He has a contract with the government. The government says, I would like to use your department at your college, at MIT, I think. I forget where they're at. But he's like, I'd like to go. The government contracts this guy to develop a weapon, or at least a laser, that they're going to use as a weapon eventually. However, they're trying to push the technology forward. They're giving his school, his branch of the school, a grant to develop a technology, which is all he wants to do as a professor. He's like, well, of course I want to be funded, and I want these students to work toward a goal of creating groundbreaking technologies. Of course, well, that makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't I? I'm a professor at a school. I'd like the school to be recognized for achievements. Of course I'll take your government grant and develop this weapon. Just look at William Atherton through a different lens in every movie. Die Hard. The red-haired guy gets punched in the nose by Holly Gennaro, a.k.a. Holly McClane, at the end of the movie. He gets assaulted just by being a reporter. He shouldn't be... I mean, obviously, we want that moment. We love that moment. It's phenomenal. It's fantastic. He gets punched right in the nose after a 2-hour movie of abject violence and destruction. What do? But we put a little cherry on top by punching a guy in the nose. Just a little bit. One more punch. Why not? While we're at it, one for the road. Punch a guy in the nose when he sticks a microphone in your face. I think that's a... But look, William Atherton in that movie is just trying to get the story out. He's just trying to find out what's going on inside that building. I'm going to change your view of him. He's also in a movie called Sugarland Express, one of the first movies directed by, I think it might be the first actual cinematic release, directed by Steven Spielberg. It stars the inimitable Goldie Hawn. Goldie Hawn is beyond excellent, and I think she's never really had the credit that she deserves. I think that she's a revelation, and the world wasn't ready for her, and now I'm really understanding her greatness, which I didn't really get, because I don't think that it was couched in anything that elevated her roles or elevated her status as an actor, but she's pretty phenomenal. So she's in a movie called Sugarland Express, and William Atherton breaks out of prison, and then they go on kind of like a 2-day chase. And it's a really interesting... It's an okay movie. It's not great. It's Spielberg's first, so you got to give him some leeway on this one. Let's catch up with some of these some of these comments. Hey, Ange. I said hi to you. I said hi to you already, Will. I actually had a dream and was presented with an award at work, but the award, which they projected on the giant screen, they spelled my name Williw. That's palindromic and fantastic. We had a channel in New York. It was a public station, and it was called WLIW. I guess it was the Long Island public television station, WLIW. So that's what that reminds me of. Also, Will Wheaton's screen name is like WILW. Will Wheaton. If you find Will Wheaton on all of the things, I actually follow Will Wheaton. I think he might even follow me on, there's an app where you can log your beers, and it's called Untapped, and Will Wheaton's on there. I have like 20 beers on there. He's got like several thousand. Guy likes to drink beer, apparently. Will, this guy up here, Jeffrey Tambor's typical role. Yeah, Jeffrey Tambor, I remember him. He's in Arrested Development. And is he not also in Transparent, which was good, but then they fired him from the show. Always had a love for Goldie Hawn's comic chops and empathy. Yeah, Goldie Hawn is quite the talent. Real Genius is phenomenal. Do Not Follow Me, I'm Serious is 3 laughing with tears in your eyes faces. Thank you for that. Laszlo Holyfeld is how I feel right now. Now, I mentioned John Grise in the movie Real Genius earlier. Laszlo Holyfeld was the guy who lived in the wall. You might not remember this, but he lived in a wall, and he filled out... This is literally how my life is shaking out. He was filling out he had these robotic machines filling out cards that were entry forms for the Frito-Lay competition. Enter as many times as you like, enter to win. And he would have these machines just filling out his name and address with like mechanical things on cards, and he would just perpetually mail them out because he figured out the probability of mailing out tens of thousands of entry forms to Frito-Lay only increased the chances for him to win, which they do because the denouement of that movie. I don't know if you guys remember what... We'll talk about denouement maybe on another day. Denouement. We'll talk about it. Well, see, he was... after the movie ends, Real Genius, after the climax of the movie anyway, this is a spoiler if you haven't seen Real Genius. I'll try to make this vague, but Laszlo shows up having achieved his personal character goals, and it's pretty phenomenal. It's just because a denouement in cinema means that once we've reached the climax of the movie and there's been a resolution, say like I've defeated the bad guy, the princess has rescued me, whatever the situation is, once you've achieved that goal, then there's a resolution, and then there's the denouement. The denouement is like, this is the new world we live in now moving forward. Each one of your characters in a movie has changed. Each one of them has achieved or not achieved their goal in some way or another. But now, here's the new starting point. So there are movies with incredible denouement. For instance, the end of the Pirates of the Caribbean, which I don't really remember, but I do remember like they kind of go off on a boat or something, and then Jack Sparrow is like, well, this is my new world now. So that's that feeling. And there are some movies that have instantaneous denouement. They have instantaneous resolution. One of my favorite movies in the last 10 years is a movie called Whiplash. And right at the very end, it's very much like The Karate Kid. I think Karate Kid's also a perfect example of this. There's an instantaneous resolution, instantaneous denouement. The movie climaxes, resolves, and we understand our new world within seconds. And it's a really cool achievement that some movies can do. The Karate Kid, he's like, all right, this is the moment of truth. I'm going to take the form of the crane, and I'm going to kick you in the freaking face, Johnny. He does that. And it's that moment when he kicks Johnny in the face, even though there's no face kicks. It's kind of an illegal move. Whatever. He's our hero. We'll let him do it. We'll allow it. I haven't seen the new Karate Kid series or Cobra Kai series, but I hear it's great because it makes so much sense that Daniel-san grows up to be the bully. I love that. I love the idea that Johnny's life gets ruined and Daniel-san is like the new bully, because that makes perfect sense. Because if he doesn't keep himself in check, he's going to be the guy pushing around everyone else now. He's the new kingpin. But in that moment when he kicks Johnny in the face and Johnny falls down, it's the resolution. He's won the match. He's defeated his opponent. His girl, he wins. Elizabeth Shue comes running over and hugging and kissing him. So he wins the girl, as it were, in the early 80s. Mr. Miyagi is proud that he has been a part of the growth of this child. Everybody looks at each other. Everything's great. Movie's over. Done. We're out. We get it. Now he's the new hero. He's got a girlfriend. Everybody's proud. He's happy. The bad guys are defeated. They feel they've... But then, of course, in the next movie, it starts out in the parking lot of them, and now we're in the new version of the new world. And sometimes movies just undo that for the sequel, which sucks. They just undo everything that they did in the first movie in the very beginning of the next movie, and that is the worst way to write a sequel. You need to have new character motivations, new things that drive these people forward. Isn't he in Biodome? Maybe John Grise is in Biodome. He's also Wolfman in a movie called The Monster Squad, which my friend Bradford May did the cinematography for. Little known fact there. Monster Squad. You missed the suggestions. Ice Pirates. Sorry, Will. Ice Pirates and Time Bandits. Yes, the chat is lively today, and I'm very happy about that, guys. Thank you for being so spirited. Time Bandits. Oh, man, Ice Pirates. Will brings up the movie Ice Pirates. When I was a kid, and I heard about my friend Scott Murray, he was a little kid, literally little person. Stephen King rules. Oh, yeah, Time Bandits. Well, I don't know which one of those is Stephen King, but Ice Pirates was the movie, and it had Spencer for Hire in it. And then there was my friend kept telling me, he's like, there's a part in the movie where they're the machine and they put them on a conveyor belt and then they get their balls chopped off. And then they create castratos in the movie Ice Pirates. And I was terrified by this as a third-grade-year-old boy. Fourth grade, he's like, I was watching it on TV. What is like the worst fear when you're a boy and you just finally realize that you have balls? And then you hear your friends say, I watched a movie where people got their balls chopped off. It's very frightening. It's disturbing. So I had to watch the movie. And it was actually pretty funny. It's funny in the movie, but it's also a terrifying image if you're a young boy in particular, I guess. No, he wears a shirt in Monster Squad, says Stephen King rules. Oh, get with it. Zing. You got me there, Awagala. I was not paying attention. It's been a while since I've seen the Monster Squad, but good observation. I like it. But you know what? Wolfman's got nards. Since we're talking about nards and Ice Pirates, Wolfman's got nards. Who knew Wolfman's got nards? You gotta kick him in him. Today's discussion really focuses around testicles. Top Secret. Oh, Val Kilmer. Remember the Val Kilmer movies? Top Secret is a hilarious movie. One of my favorite moments is when Grand Moff Tarkin has the thing like this with the eye, and then he pulls the magnifying glass down and his eye is still huge. That was funny. Or like when this is a really terribly dated joke in the movie in Top Secret, because in the movie Top Secret is a movie by like the Zucker brothers who did Airplane and all these ridiculous movies and Hot Shots, Abrams, and Naked Gun. Those are like my favorite types of comedy because they're completely ridiculous. Top Secret. Val Kilmer is driving a Pinto, and then the Pinto gets like rear-ended. It just goes ding, and then it explodes because it's a dated joke. In the early 80s, if you had a Pinto, they randomly exploded and they had to do a recall. So that's a great example. Maybe we'll do a show on dated jokes that make no sense today. We just would not get. But that's a good one. Tatiana Wilkinson brings that up. Here's a funny thing about that. Here's a fact for you about Star Wars, because everything relates to Star Wars. If we've learned anything from watching Aristotle Full Throttle, it's that somehow I managed to tie everything back to Star Wars. Grand Moff Tarkin, the actor who plays Grand Moff Tarkin, is also in the movie Top Secret. Top Secret is about 1984, 1985. They had to take a face mold of that actor. What was his name? Peter Cushing. They had to take Peter Cushing's face mold. What was his name? Bob Costas. And they preserved it. So they've got a life cast of Peter Cushing's face from 1984. So what they did, now get this, for Rogue One, is they scanned models of his life cast from the early 80s, and they recreated Grand Moff Tarkin for the movie Rogue One from these scans from the face mold that they took from the movie Top Secret. Did you know that? That was Top Secret. One of my favorite things about this terrible president we have, you got to have some favorite things. You've got to have some favorite things. One of my favorite things about him is there is a classification called top secret in government. It's literally top secret. The only person privy to that information is the president at all times. And the only person who can declassify any information is the president. The only person, which is mind-numbing. So if this dude is told a secret and literally says it in public, he can say that with impunity and probably structurally ruin any types of intelligence that we're gathering for our intelligence agencies. So he's an idiot. So the people in our NSA and the CIA and all of these, and the FBI and all these organizations that have to maintain secrecy, they can't tell him crap, because they know he'll blurt it out. And if he blurts it out, then it's no longer a secret and there's nothing they can do about it. That is my favorite thing and the worst thing possible. Cobra Kai on YouTube series is great. Tatiana, I know, I keep hearing good things about it. I really want to watch that. Angela, the most definitely the final shot, priceless. The stairs. Oh yeah, Whiplash. I was talking about the denouement and Whiplash relating to the Karate Kid, just going back to that discussion a little bit. The moment in Whiplash that I love, a lot of people they have a little criticism about the movie Whiplash, but to them I say, if you don't like the movie Whiplash, it's great. I am a musician. You guys might know that. I play music. I love music. Music is my life in the inside. I enjoy movies. I enjoy talking. I enjoy creativity. I enjoy creative people. I enjoy people who are into lively discussion. I enjoy stimulation of the mind and of the soul and of my taste buds with coffee, with bitterness. The things I love in life. The simple pleasures. Discussion, thoughts, ideas. But the movie Whiplash reminds me of several things in my life in particular. One being, it's not the greatest action-adventure movie. Maybe we'll talk about movie. We can talk about whatever we want, guys. We can talk whatever we like. So, J.K. Simmons, J.K., he's in that movie, and he plays a really tyrannical type of teacher, music teacher. I had a teacher similar to that when I was in high school musicals. He's a nutcase. He's a frickin' nutcase. I don't care. The people still like this guy. He's a nutcase. He was very evil, very mean. When you were like singing, and he'd have you stand on the chorus line, and if you weren't singing loud enough, he'd like punch you in the stomach. He would literally throw people off the stage. He is still alive, apparently. He's an abusive human being. This guy that directed the musicals that I was in high school. So I relate to that movie. I relate to a character like that. I relate to a guy who, it's like, I get why J.K. Simmons' character in Whiplash is such a dickhead. I get it, because he wants someone to go through his program and become a great jazz musician, become a great jazz drummer. And then Miles Teller's character is coming up, and he's learning, and he's pushing himself, and he's pushing himself, and he's pushing himself, and nothing is ever good enough, and nothing is ever good enough. And so in the movie Whiplash, there's so many great moments where the intensity builds. It's very reminiscent of when I was in high school learning being in musicals and stuff like that. But the denouement, the resolution, the climax of Whiplash is phenomenal because it's all within a moment, and it's all within a look. And this is a spoiler if you haven't seen the movie, but they're playing a concert after Miles Teller survives a car accident, runs the concert with his drumsticks. He gets up on stage and he kicks the drummer off the stage and starts playing. And he starts playing because he has let everything go. He's playing with such intensity because he knows he can do it. He's realizing himself as a musician. And as he's doing that, J.K. Simmons' character is conducting the jazz band on the stage. And there's a moment that they share, there's a look that they share, which was Miles Teller telling J.K. Simmons' character, the conductor, F off, I got this now. I am now fully realized. I've stepped into myself. I am realized as a musician, as a character. And J.K. Simmons receives the message in his look, acknowledges it, and becomes proud. He actually has achieved his character goal, which was to have a great emerge from his program. And that is a phenomenal moment in movies. I love it. Welcome, Linda Moran, producer extraordinaire. I've worked for Linda before on a movie called LIE about 20 years ago. First movie I ever worked on. Fantastic movie. Has since spawned many well, you guys might know Paul Dano. He's a very popular actor now. He's going to be the Riddler in the next Batman. Speaking of action adventure, that kid, he's a smart kid. I still call him a kid because I know him as like a kid, but he's an adult man now with an extraordinary career. Angeno says, my brother and I are both pianists, and Whiplash triggered the F out of, we'll say, Angeno, you understand what that's like. If you've been a part of a conservatory, if you've been a musician, if you understand what it takes to play an instrument, I think a lot of people don't understand the level of obsession you need to get good at an instrument. It's fine to play an instrument, and I love playing piano. And I do get consumed for periods about learning the piano, but my main instrument are guitars and bass and stringed instruments, purely stringed instruments. The piano is a combined stringed and percussion instrument, ladies and gentlemen. Also, I love to play music, and there was an obsession that I had for probably 10 years, and then also 7 more years while I was in professional bands. You need to just want to only ever do that to get really good. And that was me for quite some time. So the movie Whiplash, it connects with me. It connects with seeing that level of obsessive dedication to getting good at something. It's not easy. I always think it's funny when people are like, yeah, I always wanted to play guitar, but, like, my fingers would hurt. Oh, I always wanted to play guitar, but, like, I haven't practiced it. I still practice. You got to practice all the time. You got to just practice forever. I remember I had a friend, and they were like, after I'd been playing guitar for about 8 years or so, they were like, oh, you still practice? I'm like, yeah. You got to practice every day. Do you still breathe? Did you ever have dreams? I know this is a bit bombastic today, but I don't care. We're all together.
Have you ever had a dream that you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
Yes, I've had that dream. I hope you guys have that dream too. Have that dream every day. Apocalypto. Oh, that's a good one. That's a scary one. Popcorn Passport brings up Mel Gibson's, God rest his soul. That guy's not a he's not America's sweetheart for sure. Here's a fun fact. Mel Gibson Born in New York, moved to Australia when he was like 12, then moved back to the United States when he was in his early 20s. So, American guy with an Australian accent. Now his accent's just weird. Now his accent just uses a lot of curse words at cops and epithets. But Apocalypto, that's it. There's something about Mel Gibson's visual style that is very intense. Lots of blood, lots of violence. Spies Like Us. That's a hilarious movie. Tatiana, yeah, Top Secret. She brings up there's a lot of great sight gags in Top Secret. There's so much fun when movies like Top Secret and movies like The Naked Gun and Hot Shots. There's so many visual sight gags. And even movies like Spaceballs. Each one of those gags has to be built. When you're talking about practicality and productivity, you have to build these jokes. Every joke that you write into that script has to be built. They have to realize it as an actual prop, as an actual set. So I find it phenomenal when these comedies are so well written and the jokes and the humor is so baked into that script that they can build an entire set just to tell one joke. I find that funny. I'm sure as a producer, it could become a headache. Yeah, so creative disciplines, getting back to Whiplash and other things like that. Creative disciplines are really something. I had a friend a few years ago. They're still my friend. they're a doctor, and people would say, "Yeah, I always wanted to become a doctor. I just didn't, want to like go through the schooling." It's like, okay, then you didn't want to become a doctor. So there's an interesting relationship I think people have with how to realize a dream, how to have a dreams that you could do so much, you could do anything. Wow, Angelo, we'd like to see some of your recitals. May the Schwartz be with you. But phenomenally, somehow, society keeps moving forward. I don't know how it's gonna right now. I know I started off the show talking about George Floyd, but we need to talk about that, guys. We need to talk about these injustices. We need to realize that society, the administration, there's something amiss. Something's not right. There is what is it? How do we solve this? I don't know. Nobody knows. But E.T. does. E.T. said, be good. Combing the desert. Oh, yeah. Combing the desert was so funny. There's so many great sight gags in Spaceballs. Industrial strength hairdryer. That's pretty great. Third grade after... Oh, no. Tatiana says she played violin for a year, but was too much practice for me. Third grade. Yeah, it's too much practice for a lot of people. It is a lot of practice. It's a lot of repetition. It's a lot of focus. It's extreme focus, too, because if you practice, you might notice that the time will go by, 4 hours will go by, and it'll feel like 15 minutes. And you'll also realize how exhausted you are, because now your brain has been working that whole time. J.K. Simmons, speaking of action adventure, has come back to play J. Jonah Jameson. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think that that's a good idea? I think it's really funny because he originated the on-screen role in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and now he gets to reprise that role so brilliantly because it's kind of hard to imagine anyone else playing that part. Am I right? Am I right, people? It's hard to imagine anyone else trying to be that character. I know there's a little bit of a delay on YouTube, But I find that phenomenal that J.K. Simmons, they just were like, you know what, let's just get J.K. Simmons back because anybody else is just going to be doing an impression of J.K. Simmons. Balls for life. I support this convo. Yes, my dad drove a Pinto. Oh yeah, it was a Pinto. Was it a Pinto? Yeah, that's the one. Charlie's Angels, true story. I did not explode. Good golly. Thank you for not exploding. Spider-Verse. J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons, I think is a great call. I like that J.K. Simmons just owned his baldness, or at least the production owned his baldness, because J. Jonah Jameson's in the comic books has that flat top that he wore, that fake wig, but I think that people realized, you know what, J.K. Simmons is he's a tough guy, and bald. Why not be bald? Let's just do that. Angelo, uh-oh. Oh no. Oh no, Angelo lost all of her VHS evidence of her recitals. Well, you're just going to have to play them live for us then. This is a fun discussion, guys. I do want to connect with you on a real level right now. We got a few minutes left. But I know that we're supposed to be talking about action-adventure movies, but it's hard. It's hard right now. Ooh, yeah, Will brings up the Robert Rodriguez movies, Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and what was the third movie in that? There's a first movie, the Desperado series. Robert Rodriguez. I'll wait. It's like there's a El Mariachi. That's right. El Mariachi. Those mariachi players are really good, by the way. They practice a lot. I always like this. This is an old classic joke. When you ever watch a mariachi band, and that's one of the things I love about Los Angeles is because we basically live in Mexico. This was Mexico 100 years ago, or 150 years ago, and I find it phenomenal that you can go to a Mexican restaurant with an authentic mariachi band, and the joke is the littlest guy has the biggest guitar. And the biggest guy has the littlest guitar. I want to play mariachi. I want to play in a mariachi band, actually. It's not easy. Those guys practice. If we're learning anything today, it's to practice. El Mariachi. Desperado, El Mariachi, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Those are so fun, guys. Robert Rodriguez brought a whole level of visual style to his movies and to cinema and to Hollywood. He became a Steadicam operator when Steadicam operators were few and far between. He said, I know so well what I want to shoot. I need to shoot it myself. And while shooting Desperado, he broke his nose on the viewfinder of his Steadicam because he was so involved in the physical shooting of his movies. Now, there's a thing in Hollywood where you can't necessarily do two jobs at once on set. So as a director, he's not necessarily allowed to be the camera operator. So he had to lie and just operate the Steadicam himself and just say that he was not the camera operator. Another person who does that is Steven Soderbergh, operates the camera. Another person who I know does some of that is a director I've worked with, Bradford May. He's also the cinematographer for some of his movies. So he's the cinematographer / director for movies. That is a double duty job. People who are similar to that are Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick could do that. Stanley Kubrick was a photographer before he was a filmmaker. So he knows how photography works. Cinema and photographies. Both photographies, he understands. Very good. Very, very good. Yes, Popcorn Passport. That is a classic joke that you will hear constantly as a musician. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. Practice. That's also from The Last Action Hero. If we're going to wrap it up on Instagram right now, we're going to bring up Last Action Hero. Practice. I thought that was such a weird, awkward moment with F. Murray Abraham and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And the guy's name is literally Practice. I've never heard anyone's name Practice, but I think they just really wanted to pay off that joke in the script. You guys remember this? Of course you do. That's when they're at the police station with animated characters and people from all different kinds of genres and movies, because it's The Last Action Hero. It's a fake, phenomenal, made-up world. The movie's not that great. It was written by a guy named Shane Black, great writer. I went to his house. I'm pretty pretty sure Shane Black wrote that also. He wrote Lethal Weapon and all those movies and Long Kiss Goodnight. I went to Shane Black's house for a New Year's Eve party, and maybe I'll tell you about that some other time. But it was a movie. It definitely was a movie. Guys, Instagram, see you Monday. Have a great weekend. Love you. Hey, YouTubers. We're hanging out here for a little bit extra. Gonna look up these things. I know I'm just rattling things off incoherently today, but I think it's important. I think it's important to just get your thoughts out. Get your thoughts out too. I want to hear what you guys are thinking. I want to hear how you guys are feeling. I know that we're, Last Action Hero. There's still something good about it, but it's kind of an awkward movie. Shane Black happened to co-write the screenplay. Yes. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. It's June 13th, 1993. That is like 26 years and 11 months ago. And 11 and a half months ago. It's a while ago. I must have been 4 years old. Not easy, double duty, so much focus. There's always a guy in the closet. Yeah, that is a good reference to The Last Action Hero. What? I don't know this guy, Arnold Schwarzenegger. What do you keep talking about this guy? I'll be back. You didn't know I'm going to say this, did you? There are good... It's a fun movie. To be or not to be. Not to be. Arnold Schwarzenegger is Hamlet. Bubba Biggie Bubba Bunkus. You didn't know I'm going to say that. That's a good clip. We could just quote Arnold from Last Action Hero for about 2 hours straight. I like the bad guy in that. The bad guy in that actually plays the original Red Dragon. He's a really cool actor. He's like a 10-foot tall actor. What's his name? The cast. Austin O'Brien was the kid. I guess Tom Noonan. Tom Noonan that guy is good. I think he's also in Terminator 2. He plays not Terminator 2, my bad. RoboCop 2. What am I talking about? Oh my God. You didn't know I was going to say that. Charles Dance. So many classics. So many good actors in this movie. Mercedes Ruehl. Remember her? What happened to Mercedes Ruehl? She's phenomenal. She's so easy to connect to. Why don't we talk on Monday about movies where kids get to drive cars? Remember the movie that was like called like The Tough Guys or something, The Wise Guys, and it was like two kids. That was one of my favorite movies. Zombieland, that's a good one. Mercedes Ruehl. What is that movie? I'm going to look this up right now. We're just going by the seat of our pants because we're just having a good time here. There's a movie called, the guy from Hill Street Blues. I'm trying to find, this is an actor, he died, Robert Prosky. He's in a movie that I saw when I was a kid. And maybe you guys could think of this before I could. Oh, Charles Dance is definitely underrated all the time. He's one of the greats. He was also in, wait for it. He was in The Golden Child. He played like Devil's Helper. That was pretty cool. Gremlins 2, Loose Cannons, Dangerous Pursuit. There's a movie from the 80s, Big Shots, that I loved this movie. It's called Big Shots when I was a kid. I don't know how well this movie holds up at all because I have not seen it since I was a kid. But Darius McRae was in that movie, and of course later on, Darius McRae famously was on Family Matters for like years and 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 years. I believe it was So he was a young little kid in the movie Big Shots, And if you get the chance, watch the trailer at least. I haven't watched this movie in forever, but I remember just really gravitating toward that movie as a child because it's just these two little rogue kids who are going driving across the country and running away from home, and it's just it's a fun movie. But Darius McCray, great actor. Family Matters. If you were like me, you grew up on way too many seasons of Family Matters. You watched Family Matters until it became the Steve Urkel show, until it was Steve Urkel's show. There's a phenomenon that happens in a lot of TV series where someone in the cast starts running away with their role, and then all of the writers start just writing for that person because everybody keeps connecting to the one character. And Jaleel White played famously Urkel, Steve Urkel, the nerdy neighbor. And after a few seasons of Family Matters with the dad from Die Hard, yeah, I'm taking you guys back. You guys are coming back in the Wayback Machine with me, and we're going to talk about Family Matters for a couple minutes here because action adventure. You got Die Hard, you got Carl, you got what was the dad's name in Family Matters? Winslow, Carl Winslow. Am I right? Yeah, Carl Winslow. The dad, Reginald VelJohnson, which, by the way, I don't understand why they didn't bring him back for every Die Hard movie because he's like half of the soul of the first Die Hard movie. The first Die Hard movie is unique because he is half of the freaking reason John McClane lives. He's like, John McClane is trying to rekindle his situation with his wife, and he's reconnecting with this cop on the ground who walks him through this horrible, harrowing situation. Reginald VelJohnson should be in all of the Die Hard movies. Still, they should make Die Hard movies with just Reginald VelJohnson today. He's still around. They need to make movies with him. I mean, he's on like TV series and stuff and TV movies, but dude needs to be in like, they need to make Die Hard 6 like a buddy cop movie with two retired cops, John McClane and Reginald VelJohnson. And Reginald VelJohnson just play Carl Winslow. He should just be like, come on, I just want my Twinkies. Because that's what he says in Die Hard. But that dude needs Reginald, yeah. Now, if you watch that show, Steve Urkel ran away with it, and it just became, every episode became Steve Urkel, and then Jaleel White became way too old to play Steve Urkel, and it became awkward. He was like college aged, pulling his pants up around his neck, going, did I do that? However, they started to go, well, Jaleel White isn't not nerdy in real life, so we're going to make him Steve Urkel, and then make him like kind of the cool kid. And they gave him 2 roles. They were like, this guy's running away with the show. Why don't we just give him 2 roles? He'll play the nerdy guy and the cool guy. And today's show is dedicated to Family Matters. Yes, Reginald VelJohnson was in Die Hard 2. However, he was on the phone. He called him up on the phone and was like, hi, I'm just in the office. We're just filming this right now. We're filming this whole scene before lunch. I'm going to eat a Twinkie because remember I mentioned Twinkies in the first movie? Anyway, goodbye. This is Reginald VelJohnson in Die Hard 2. Hey, John McClane? Remember me from the first movie? Yeah? All right. All right, well, okay, goodbye. That was it. Hey, John McClane, are you on an adventure right now? Oh yeah, well, I'm in an office eating a Twinkie. Okay, then. Oh yeah, you remember when I saved your life? Because I overcame my fear of pulling my gun after I killed a kid accidentally in the line of duty. Because being a cop is very difficult. It's a very hard job. Sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who poses a threat. Maybe someone pulling a gun on you, but maybe it's just a toy water gun and you just accidentally kill that person. Yeah, well, at least I'm not like one of those cops in Minnesota who leans on someone's neck for 9 minutes, who is unarmed and did not commit any types of violence, who is peacefully already coming with us and was restrained adequately and already cuffed. Yeah, I'm not a murderer. I'm just saying that being a cop is difficult. But that guy is a murderer. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. I'm pretty sure that's how the conversation went. Reginald VelJohnson should be in all the new diehards. There should have at least been a phone call between him and John McClane. Because how easy is that? Their relationship in the first movie was over walkie-talkie, so every diehard should just have done that. It should have just had Reginald VelJohnson crash his cop car into someplace nearby and then go, "What's going on, John McClane? Let me help you out of this." You know, he could have been like the Colonel Troutman to John McClane's Rambo. He could have been Colonel Troutman to John McClane's Rambo. Every time Rambo's in a problem, every time John McClane's in a problem, call in Reginald VelJohnson. Carl Winslow. Call him in. And he could talk him out of it. It's like, now, John McClane, you're in one of these difficult situations where you're trying to die hard. Let me help you out this situation. But first, I got to crash my cop car and talk about Twinkies. Because that's part of my character. Yeah. They did arrest the one cop, but they need to arrest all 4 cops and bring them all on charges, because you don't just stand there as a peace officer, as someone who has arrested someone who is clearly under arrest. Now you are murdering someone who has been arrested. They're in your custody. They're under arrest. They don't appear at all in any video, and by all accounts, other than the police report, which was lies, according to any of the video that shows, by all accounts, George Floyd was already in the custody. He was already peacefully going. Here's the worst part of the story, people. George Floyd, the reason why the cops were called on him, the reason why the cops showed up was because there was a potential forgery in progress, meaning that he tried to pay for something with a $20 bill that was counterfeit, that was noted by the clerk at the store that said, "Hey, this $20 bill seems like it's counterfeit. I need to call the authorities as per protocol." When you work in services and you get a counterfeit bill, it's required by law that you call the police. The store owner said, "I don't even think George Floyd knew that he had a counterfeit 20. It was just in his money and he paid for things. He likely did not even know that it was a goddamn fake 20. It's just insane. And the guy gets murdered for it. It's just messed up on every level, as the mayor of Minneapolis says. They could have replaced him with Charles Dutton, and he asked for too much money like Terrence Howard. You can't replace Reginald VelJohnson with anyone. Will. Reginald VelJohnson. Charles Dutton is rock. Rock was cool, but Rock had more of he's got a different vibe. He had more of an angry curmudgeon vibe. And I almost said Uncle Cliff. Reginald VelJohnson as Carl had more of a dad vibes. More dad vibes. The Rock was angry curmudgeon, Archie Bunker. Reginald VelJohnson, more dad, more like grumpy dads. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu your whole life. That cop invented, intended. And there is no doubt in my mind that police officer murdered George Floyd. There is not a single doubt in my mind. He, for 9 minutes, despite the begging and pleading of everyone around him, telling him to check the man's pulse, while he continued to apply pressure with his knee and full body weight on a man who is face down on his neck. There's no convincing me otherwise. And they say you can't have a conversation with anybody that you can't, who cannot say that their mind can be changed. Guess what? You can't change my mind on that. So sorry, we're not going to even have a conversation on whether or not that was murder. It was murder. We all watched a man get murdered. I cannot wrap my head around it. Yeah, he thought he was getting a popcorn passport. I'll tell you what, that cop, I guarantee you he's gotten away with it. This cop is a murderer, clearly, at least once. At least once. They checked his record. People have died at his hands before. A couple of times before, people have died in the presence of this police officer. Just think how much this dude is a straight killer. I can't wrap my mind around it. This world is it makes no sense right now, but you know what does make sense? Movies make sense. We can make them make sense. We can write our history. We can write our future. We can write a movie and make us feel better by looking at an idealized version of the world. It helps us understand the world. It helps us understand the chaos of the world. There's nothing that can really help us understand why this guy was murdered like that. There's nothing that can help us understand this. The only thing that needs to happen now is justice. And justice, in my mind, is those cops all go to prison for murder. Especially the guy who physically murdered George Floyd. I think all of those cops, the ones standing there, if you stand there, you're an accomplice to murder. You're not just a witness to murder, you're an accomplice to murder. If your partner, if your cohort, your worker, your co-worker is committing a murder that is beyond any training, that is not, has no part of any of your training, if you stand there and allow that to happen, you are, in my mind, you are just as responsible for it. And you need to go to prison. That's why all of the people from, all of those Nazis, all of those people in the Nuremberg trials after the Holocaust, they all got hung. They all went to prison. They got hanged. They went to prison because they, you know what their excuse was? They said they were just following orders. You don't follow orders. You are a human first. You have intellect, you have compassion, you have critical thinking. If you see something like that happening, you stop it from happening. If I see something like that happening, I stop that from happening. It's just insane. It's just insane. What are the bystanders to do but video it? Because that's all they have. That's the only thing in their power. You hear them as he's struggling, as he's begging, as he's pleading for his life. You hear them screaming, "Let the man up. Let him breathe. Check his pulse. Please let him breathe." Straight murder. I can't comprehend it. So there's no comprehending it, guys. What we can do is do as E.T. says, be good. Sorry to bring the vibe down, but this is our reality. That's not a good one, but it could be better. We can keep the fire burning, the fire of justice, the fire of goodness, the fire of truth, we can just keep it burning. And that's what we'll do. Thank you guys for joining me. I will see you Monday. Stay safe. Be kind. Be kind to each other. And do the best you can. And that's all you can do. Watch movies that make you happy. Watch movies that make you sad. Because sometimes things that make us sad make us happy. Especially when they're fictional. Thank you guys. And we'll all try to understand this together. I don't think we ever will. But we can keep trying. And let's do that. I'm Aristotle Full Throttle, your bro in the know at the fro. Have a great weekend.